You feel it, don't you? Something is stirring, gently, silently, inside you. It's not fear, nor is it simply sadness. It's like a strange vibration in your heart, a spiritual shiver you can't name. You look at your life, and nothing makes sense. Things you thought were stable have crumbled. People you thought you could rely on have left. And you're there, in this void, wondering why everything has stopped. But what if it wasn't a stop? What if it was a preparation? There are times when Allah doesn't announce change to you. He brings it about, not with words, not with obvious signs, but with an inner jolt, a feeling of uprooting as if your soul is struggling in the unseen. And it is in this confusion, in this imbalance, that His greatest mercy often lies hidden. Because He doesn't take something from you to punish you. He takes you away from something, to bring you back to Him. You see, your heart had become attached to plans, to people, to expectations. You had built a world where everything had to follow your rhythm, your prayers, your efforts. But the truth is, you had placed yourself at the center of a scenario in which you were never the writer. So Allah did what He always does with those He deeply loves. He destabilized you. He made your ground tremble to remind you that He is the only one who is stable. This trembling you feel, it is not the destruction of your life. It is the liberation of your soul. Look closely. When Allah wants to purify your heart, He begins with what holds you back. He makes you lose what you thought was essential, so that you discover that He is the essential one. He takes away your control, to teach you to let go and to trust. And yes, it hurts, because you still cling to things He wants you to release. You struggle, you cry, you don't understand. But in this struggle, your soul learns a truth your reason couldn't grasp. Nothing Allah took from you was truly for you. There are storms that don't come to destroy you. They come to awaken you. You think your world is collapsing when in reality, your heart is being reborn. You think you're lost, but you're simply being redirected toward your true north, toward the one who never changes, even when everything else changes. And this inner turmoil is Allah's silent communication with your soul. It is He who calls to you, not with words, but through upheaval. When you feel empty, when nothing speaks to you, when you wonder why things are drifting away from you, it may be because He wants to draw you toward another version of yourself, a purer version, more conscious, freer from the world. You see, Allah never prepares you for what you want. He prepares you for what you don't know you need. And this preparation is anything but comfortable. It breaks you. It exhausts you. It forces you to see what you refuse to see. But within this pain lies a hidden wisdom. A broken heart is a heart opening. And it is through this opening that the light enters. So if you feel lost, misunderstood, overwhelmed, don't believe it's a sign of abandonment. It's a sign of transformation. You are behind the scenes of change. Nothing seems to be moving, but in the unseen realm, everything is already aligning. There's a detail that few understand. When Allah wants to elevate you, He always begins by isolating you. This isn't to punish you, it's to protect you. Because some blessings can only blossom away from the gaze of others. And sometimes, everything around you must recede, so that you can finally hear His voice. What if this loneliness, this incomprehension, this apparent chaos, were the answer to prayers you offered long ago? Perhaps you asked for strength, and Allah gave you a trial to build it for you. You asked for peace, and He removed everything that troubled your soul, even if your heart still loved it. You asked for guidance. And He made you lose your way so that you would stop following your own path and begin to follow His. All of this, what you are experiencing now, this confusion, this weariness, is not an end. It is a signal, a sign that something is about to happen, that your old life is ending, not because it was a failure, but because it was no longer suited to the soul you are becoming. So listen to this silence. Feel this inner tension. It's not a coincidence. It's proof that the change has already begun. But what you don't yet see is what He's preparing behind this upheaval, and that's when everything will shift. There's a reason you've stumbled upon this video now. Not yesterday, not tomorrow, now, because what you're about to hear isn't just a simple message. It's a gentle warning, a whisper from the unseen. Something is happening. Perhaps your life is in disarray. Everything is falling apart. You don't understand anything anymore. But what if I told you that this is precisely the sign? That the upheaval you're experiencing isn't the end. It's the beginning of what Allah has always planned for you. Stay until the end. Because if you're seeing this, it means what Allah is preparing for you is already underway. Imagine a night, not just any night. One of those nights where the silence weighs like a mountain, where even your breath seems too loud. You walk. You don't know where you're going, but you keep going. Because stopping would mean falling. All around you, the lights go out one by one. The plans you had made, the dreams you had nurtured, the people you cared about. Everything recedes, like shadows slowly fading away. You move forward in this tunnel without understanding why Allah has put you here. You have called upon Him, you have begged Him, and yet, what you are experiencing now doesn't feel like an answer, but like silence. And in this silence, something happens. Not a visible miracle, not a dazzling sign, just an imperceptible movement, almost too subtle for your mind to grasp. A door opens. Not the one you were looking for, not the one you wanted, but the one that was waiting for you. You didn't find it. It found you. That's how divine change works. It doesn't warn you, it surprises you. It pulls you away from what you believe to be your path and guides you toward a direction your heart recognizes even before your reason understands it. You think you've lost everything, but in reality, you've been redirected. And this redirection is never abrupt without reason. It is calibrated, precise, calculated by the one who knows the paths you don't. What you see as an end is often a correction. What you experience as a fall is often a necessary detour. And what you feel as abandonment is merely a divine pause, while Allah relays what you could no longer align on your own. You must understand one thing. Allah's turning points are invisible until you have crossed them. When you are in them, you think you are going astray. You panic, you doubt, you want to go back. But when you emerge, you realize that this path, the one you cursed, was exactly the one you needed. There is no chance in the unseen. There is simply a plan that you do not yet understand. And Allah unfolds this plan in His own way, at His own pace. While you believe that nothing is moving, He is moving mountains in a world you cannot see. Now imagine that every trial in your life is a hidden turning point. You walk straight ahead, confident. Then without warning, the ground shifts. You fall, you cry out, you can no longer see the way. But a few steps later, you understand that this curve saved you from an abyss. That's the invisible turning point. A movement you only understand later. An act of love disguised as loss. An act of protection that your wounded heart interprets as rejection. And if you knew what these detours prevent you from doing, you would thank Allah for every delay, every obstacle, every closure. You would stop asking Him why
And you would start saying to him, "Guide me, even if I don't understand. But look even deeper. What if, in reality, this turning point wasn't in your outward life, but within you? Perhaps Allah hasn't changed your path. He has changed you. And when you change, your whole world reorganizes itself. What you thought was necessary no longer attracts you. What you were running from suddenly becomes obvious. You feel your gaze, your heart, your energy. Everything shift without explanation. It's because He has placed you in a phase of silent rewriting, a rewriting of your soul, line by line, so that you can fit into the next version of your life. Do you want to know why it's painful? Because sometimes you have to die to an old identity to be reborn into a new destiny. And that death isn't the end of you. It's the end of what you thought you were. So yes, sometimes everything collapses silently. Certainties fade. Plans become empty. And you remain there, facing this emptiness that frightens you. But this emptiness is not an absence. It is a space that God has emptied in order to fill it in another way. The invisible turning point is when you realize, after months of confusion, that everything that left you was simply displaced to make room for what was to come. And this understanding always comes late. But when it comes, everything calms down. So listen, you haven't failed. You haven't taken the wrong path. You just turned without seeing it. And if everything seems blurry today, it's because your soul is adjusting its vision to a higher light. You think you're in the night, but perhaps it's just the dawn beginning. And what is coming? You don't see it yet, but you will understand why everything had to happen exactly this way. And you, how many times have you raised your hands, trembling, your heart heavy, hoping that this time Allah would truly hear you? How many nights have you spoken in the dark without an answer? How many prayers have you whispered through tears until your very soul grew weary of hoping? You know this feeling, the one where you say, "I've given everything, but nothing changes." You look at the sky, you repeat the same words, and the silence returns to you like a cold echo. Then you doubt, not Him, but yourself. Perhaps you ask yourself, why don't my supplications reach the heavens anymore? Why don't my efforts open any doors? But what you don't see is that sometimes silence is an answer, not a rejection, a preparation. Allah has not forgotten you. He hasn't turned His back on you. He has simply placed you in the hollow of time, that invisible space between the test and the turning point. It's a strange place, this in-between. You don't yet see the light, but you're no longer completely in the dark. You float in a kind of spiritual waiting, where your soul learns patience not as a theory, but as a breath. In this phase, everything seems frozen, and nothing moves on the outside. But on the inside, Allah gently rebuilds. He removes the layers of impatience, the illusions of ego, the pressing needs of your human heart. He strips you of what you wanted, to prepare you to receive what you truly need. You think your supplication isn't being heard, but in reality, it was received with the first stare. It is not the answer that is delayed. It is you whom Allah is adjusting to the weight of that answer. Because He knows, if you receive too soon, you waste it. If you receive too quickly, you forget. And if you receive without having been transformed, you never learn the value of the gift. So sometimes, He leaves you in silence, not to distance you, but so that your love may grow deeper than your impatience. And this silence, it heals more than it punishes. It compels you to look elsewhere, to seek Allah not in the answer but in the waiting itself. It compels you to change your perspective, to stop saying, when, and to begin saying, why not now, if that is what you want for me? That is where faith matures. When you no longer try to impose your timing, but to align your heart with His. When you stop treating Allah as a dispenser of solutions and rediscover Him as a companion on your journey, present even when everything seems still. What you feel as emptiness is not an absence. It is a sacred space. A space where Allah speaks to you in a different way. Not through words, not through visible signs, but through subtle sensations. Through that strange peace amidst the pain. Through that small flame that tells you, don't give up yet. And if you look closely, you will see you are no longer the same person you were at the beginning of your ordeal. The silence has softened you. It has purified you. It has taught you to pray unconditionally, to love Allah even when you don't understand His plans. And it is there, precisely, that the transformation begins. Not when your prayer is answered, but when your heart ceases to fear that it won't be. It's not the external world He transforms first. It's you. He prepares you to stand where before you crumbled. He forges you in waiting, so that your gratitude becomes natural and not dependent on results. You think you're at a dead end, but you're in a spiritual workshop. Every silence is a chisel's cut. Every delay, a hammer blow. And little by little, Allah sculpts within you a form you don't yet recognize. You don't see it, but the heart you carry today is no longer the one that prayed yesterday. It is clearer, more humble, more genuine, and that's why time passes. Because your heart must first learn to contain the blessing before receiving it. So no, it's not over. It's not that God no longer hears you. It's that He wants you to hear differently. He wants you to discover that silence, waiting, emptiness are part of the answer. Because faith isn't a shout that rises to heaven. It's a breath that persists, even when heaven remains silent. And in this tension, in this waiting where nothing seems to change, something invisible is already stirring, not around you, within you. And that stirring is often a sign that the answer is approaching, but not in the way you expect.
You ask yourself, why now? Why me? Why this? But have you ever turned the question around? What if it wasn't why me, but for me? What if what you're experiencing isn't against you, but to help you become the person you were meant to be all along? You want to understand, don't you? You want to know why everything suddenly became so complicated. Why when you were trying to move forward in the right direction, life held you back without explanation. You say, I was sincere. I did things right. And yet, nothing went as planned. But if you knew what Allah has in store, you would understand why everything had to fall apart. You ask yourself, why am I losing what I love? Why is everything becoming so heavy? Why do I feel like even my prayers are lost in the void? What if the answer was, because He wants to teach you to love without clinging, to move forward without depending, to pray not to obtain, but to draw closer. What you see as a loss may be a liberation. You see, there's one thing your heart struggles to accept. Allah never takes anything from your life without a reason. But He knows that if you saw the reason too soon, you would never have the faith to go through it. So He leaves you in the fog, not to punish you, but to force you to walk with trust. And this blind walk, that's where faith becomes real, not when you understand everything, but when you continue, even without understanding. You say, but I don't see anything changing. And Allah silently answers you, it's because I am working where you don't look. You say, I'm tired of waiting. And time answers you, it's because what you're waiting for
needs another you. You say, why now? And life whispers to you, because this is the only time you're ready to change. And if you knew how many times Allah has protected you from what you call delays, how many times has He spared you from pain that your impatience would have caused? How many times has He hidden danger behind an unanswered prayer? Delay is not rejection. Silence is not abandonment. It's a divine orchestration that surpasses your human understanding. You only see the scene of the moment, but He sees the whole story. You say to yourself, why not explain it to me? Why not show me? What if faith consisted precisely of moving forward without a map? Because if you saw the whole plan, you wouldn't need trust anymore. And without trust, there is no connection. Allah doesn't just want to answer your prayers. He wants to teach you to love the process, to feel His presence even in the detours, to recognize His hand even when you don't see His gesture. You say, I've lost everything. And a voice within you replies, no. What was holding you back has simply been removed. You say, I'm not the same anymore. And your soul replies, that was the point. You say, I want to go back to the way things were. And Allah prevents you, because He doesn't want you to return to a past He has already cleared from your path. Every closure isn't a wall, it's a disguised turn. And if you remain silent long enough, you'll see that the detour leads further than the original path. You see, your heart speaks too loudly. Your fears make noise. But Allah acts in silence. That's why you don't see Him coming. He works in secret. And secret, by its very nature, makes no noise. So the next time you want to understand everything, ask yourself this question. What if I don't need to understand now? What if understanding too soon robs me of the beauty of what Allah slowly builds? Because sometimes you want immediate answers, but He wants to give you maturity before the reward. You want a quick way out, but He wants a profound transformation. You want a happy ending, but He wants eternal elevation. It's not the same thing. And that is why He delays certain things, until your soul is ready to receive them without destroying them. So yes, you doubt, you stumble, you cry out, you search. But this turmoil is not a mistake. It is the conversation your heart has with your Creator. A conversation without words, made of silences, pain, and gasps for breath. You think you are asking questions, but in truth, it is Allah who is asking them of you. And each trial is His way of asking you, do you still trust me even now? The inner dialogue never ends. It is the very breath of faith, moving forward without certainty, holding on without seeing, loving without guarantees. And in this flow of questions and incomplete answers, something is born, a clarity, a peace you cannot explain. That's the moment you finally understand. You were never alone in speaking. You were listened to from the very beginning. A tree doesn't grow the moment the seed is planted. It grows much later, after the earth has been turned, wounded, torn apart. And you are that earth. You don't understand why everything within you has been turned over, why your soil has been shaken to its roots. But what you call collapse, the heavens call preparation. For before blossoming, there must be chaos. Before light, there must be night. Before peace, there must be upheaval. Look at a seed. It is buried, alone, invisible. It seems to have disappeared. But in the secret of the earth, it tears itself apart. It splits, it breaks, and it is precisely this rupture that gives birth to life. You too are in this rupture. What you feel today as a loss may be the very moment your own light begins to form. Allah has turned over your soil. He has broken what prevented you from breathing, uprooted the dead roots, cleared the way so that something new can be born. And now, yes, everything seems empty. But this emptiness is not barren. It is the silence of soil at work. You see, the earth does not speak, but it acts. Beneath the surface, 1,000 invisible things are happening. Forces meet, and seeds awaken. Life discreetly reorganizes itself in a language that only God understands. And it is the same within you. You believe that nothing is moving, but in the unseen realm your soul is being rewritten. Your roots are redirecting, your heart is searching for its light, and what seemed over is slowly beginning to breathe differently. The shift doesn't happen all at once. It begins with an imbalance, with that strange moment when nothing stays in place, when you lose your bearings, when the world no longer responds to you as it once did. You panic, you want to return to your former stability, but you can't anymore, because your inner ground has changed texture. What you were no longer corresponds to what you are becoming. That's when the pain intensifies. That's when your heart cries out, when your mind doubts. But that's also when your soul awakens. You see, Allah hasn't abandoned you. He has simply made you bend, like bending a branch to straighten it. And this bend, this tension, this pressure you feel, it's not the end of you. It's your alignment with a greater plan. The shift is that moment when what you thought was a fall reveals itself to be a repositioning. You fall, but in the right direction. You collapse, but on solid ground. You lose everything, except what was essential. And when your heart finally accepts this movement, when you stop resisting what God is doing within you, then the miracle begins to grow. Not with noise, not with spectacle, but in the humble silence of the reborn soul. You don't see it yet, but look closely. The seed, before emerging from the earth, spends entire days in darkness. And yet, every second in this darkness makes it stronger. Every moment without light prepares it to bear one. It's the same for you. This period when you understand nothing, when everything seems pointless, stagnant, empty, that's your time underground, a sacred time, a time of spiritual gestation. And you don't need to see the fruits to believe that life is underway. You don't need evidence to know that your heart is working. You don't need signs to feel that something is already changing within you. Allah never forgets the earth He has turned over. He does not abandon the field He has prepared with His own hands. If He has broken your soil, it is because He has planned to grow a rare seed there, something you could never have grown in the old soil of your life. And when the season comes, you will see that the pain was not a curse, but a germination. You will understand that what you took for a loss was in reality a divine tilling. The shift is this: moving from despair to understanding, from resistance to revelation. But for the moment, you see only the dust. You just feel this inner stirring, this mixture of impatience and strange peace, as if your soul knows that something is approaching. And this feeling does not lie, because in the invisible world, the process has already begun. You are no longer the earth you once were. You have become the site of a future miracle. And when the time comes, nothing, neither doubt, nor fear, nor delay, will be able to prevent the flower from blooming. It will bloom, even from the most broken soil, because Allah never tills the earth in vain, And if you feel that trembling deep inside, it means that germination has already begun. This message didn't fall into your lap by chance. You could have done something else. You could have skipped this video, scrolled, looked away, but something held you back. An invisible force told you, listen. Because this isn't just a video. It's a conversation between your soul and the one who created it. And if you hear these words today, it's because your time has come. Do you feel this weight you've been carrying for months? This emptiness that defies logical explanation, these prayers you repeat silently, wondering if they still reach heaven? And none of this is ignored. Every sigh, every tear, every stifled word has been counted. And where you think Allah's silence is forgetfulness, it is in reality perfect listening. He let you cross the desert, not to lose you, but so that you might learn to recognize His voice in the absence of any other sound. You thought He had distanced you, but it was He who brought you back here, to this very moment, to tell you, I have always heard you. He never stopped guiding you, even when you had stopped asking, even when you thought you had ruined everything, even when you no longer had the strength to hope. Because Allah's love does not depend on your steadfastness. It acts even when you have nothing left to offer, even when you are exhausted, even when you doubt everything, except the fact that your heart still beats. And it is precisely this beat, this simple beat, that proves there is still something to be accomplished. What you thought was lost will be reborn in a new form. What you thought was over was merely transforming. You wanted things to go back to the way they were, but Allah is preparing something unlike anything you've ever known. Because His writing is not circular. It is ascending. You are not going back, you are rising, even when you don't realize it. What you call delay, the heavens call maturation. What you call failure, the unseen calls purification. And what you call waiting, God calls preparation. Nothing is lost, nothing is useless, nothing is too late. You are in a silent transition, a sacred in-between, where Allah is rewriting your destiny while you doubt your own. And while you believe nothing is changing, the spiritual world is already in motion. It's as if your whole being knows that something is approaching. You feel it without being able to explain it. A shiver when you think of Him, a tear you hold back for no reason, a sudden calm between two inner storms. That's the sign. It's not spectacular, it's not loud. It's gentle, profound, and real. It's the heart recognizing that something is descending. You don't need to understand what it is. You don't need to know when. You only need to remain open, because Allah never acts without purpose. And when He acts suddenly, it's always after a long, unseen preparation. You think your path is over, but it's just the earth trembling before the blossoming. You think it's the end, but it's the beginning in disguise. And if you feel a strange peace amidst the chaos, if despite everything you can't completely despair, it's because your soul knows it's coming. It knows it before you do. It's no coincidence that you're hearing this now. You were led here. Because this phrase, these words, this vibration, were for you. To remind you that even in your silence, the heavens are at work. And now, your soul feels it. Something is approaching. A change, an opening, a deliverance you no longer even have the strength to imagine. But that's all right. You no longer need to imagine. Because He will do it. Anyway, not because you deserved it, but because He has decided it. Because He chose you to bear witness to this turning point. To become living proof that miracles always happen, even after the longest silences. And when that moment comes, you will understand why you had to go through each step, through each pain, through each emptiness. Because they were the tools of your transformation, the keys to your new life. So let your heart find peace. Stop trying to control everything, what you are waiting for, what you are hoping for, what you feel coming is not a dream. It is a promise being fulfilled. And if you hear these words now, it is not by chance. It is your heart responding to the call of heaven. And that beat you feel deep inside, it is not emotion. It is your soul that whispers, he's about to do it anyway. You feel it now, don't you? It wasn't a coincidence. You were meant to hear these words today. Perhaps you don't yet know how, but Allah already knows. He's about to transform this chaos into clarity, this pain into direction. So don't stop here. Let this message sink into your heart and share it with someone who needs to hear the same truth. Because when Allah decides to act, He will with or without your permission. And if you're watching this video, it means it's already beginning.